ancient legends speak of giants the size of mountains and enormous creatures. But if these creatures are real, why don't people see them all the time or find their remains? Well, their remains have been under our feet the whole time, hidden in plain sight. The mud fossil theory is the belief that many rock formations and mountains are actually fossilized giants and other creatures that have been petrified and torn to stone, and that the modern scientific explanation of how they were formed is incorrect, because now we are taught that they formed millions of years ago by erosion or something like that. But nobody's ever been back millions of years ago and watched it happen. No one's witnessed them form, so how can they be 100% sure? Well, they really are the remains of giants and other creatures that have been torn into stone and petrified. There are many faces and human shapes you can see in rock formations. What if I told you that these faces seen in them and these humanoid shapes aren't just shapes in rocks, but actually beings that have been torn into stone? Like here, this mountain looks like a laying down giant if you look at it closely. And here's some more rock formations that look humanoid. This one's like a giant standing up. And if you look at this picture, you see mountains, but if you look closely, it looks like a giant laying down. There's the nose, the eye, the mouth. And here's one standing up. And look at this picture and you can see a face, a huge head in the ground. So these are giants that have been torn into stone and mud. And here, if you look at this, you can see a face in this mountain. Here's some more. This world is not what you think it is. But how exactly did these giants and creatures torn into stone? Some people believe they were the remains of giants that lived before the flood of Noah that were petrified and torn into stone and mud. And in mythology, trolls are believed to turn into stone whenever sunlight touches them. And they're real rock formations that, according to mythology, are trolls that turned into stone after touching daylight. And up in the Norwegian mountains, you can see a stone formation that looks like a troll person sitting down. And in the Norwegian mountains, there have been sightings of a giant creature known as the Norwegian mountain troll. Well, trolls aren't the only beings believed to turn into stone when sunlight touches them. Some giants are also believed to turn to stone when sunlight touches them, but not all giants. Only storm and mountain giants. And there are real mountains that are believed to be giants that turned into stone, like these ones right here. They are believed to be giants that turned into stone when the giants went into daylight. It's interesting that the ancients believed this, because all over the world there are mountains shaped like humans, which are giants. Giants are also believed to have created outcrops and rocky chasms, which now we are taught they are formed differently, which isn't true. They really are created by giants. Another legend of a giant being turned to stone is the legend of Kuiva the giant, who is said to be a wicked giant who is punished by the gods and then turned into stone, and you can see his remains here. In Greek mythology, titans are enormous beings that walk the earth during the dawn of time. And the most famous titan is called Atlas, and he is said to hold up the sky in some legends. There are many different versions of the myth of Atlas, like the one with Hercules is most famous, though there are other versions too. One version with him, he is turned into stone by Perseus, and in the legend, Perseus turns him to stone with the head of Medusa, and after he turns into stone, he becomes the Atlas Mountains, according to legend. There are also legends about plants and animals being turned into stone, and you can see many animal shapes in many of these rock formations, like here we see an elephant in these pictures, because they were once creatures that turned into stone. Here's a turtle that turned into stone, a giant one. And there's a stone forest in Peru that in the stone forest in Peru, you can see many animal and human-shaped rocks. And according to legend, in this stone forest, there's a portal to another world, a spiritual world that coexists alongside ours. And in Canada, there are lakes that are shaped like footprints because these are really the remains of footprints of giants, and all over the world you can find footprint-shaped rock formations. These are giant footprints of huge creatures. And there's this red stuff that you can sometimes find in rock. But what is it? Many rocks are the remains of creatures that have been turned into stone. And that's why you find this red stuff in rocks, because it's their remaining blood. And there are many rocks shaped like body parts. It's because they're the remains of creatures. So some rocks can be formed by lava, but most rocks are really the remains of giant creatures and other creatures that once lived in this world. According to mythology, the earth is a living being. Many ancient cultures believe the earth to be alive, and she has many different names like Mother Nature, Mother Earth. In Greek mythology, she is called Gaia. Modern science says that oil is formed by somehow fossils burning beneath the earth millions and billions of years ago. But this isn't true. I mean, nobody's ever been back in time billions of years ago and watched it happen, so they have no 100% proof of this. The ancients believed that the oil was the blood of the earth, the blood of Mother Earth. They believed the earth to be alive and oil her blood. This is the real truth. And also, it doesn't take millions of years for something to fossilize. It can happen in only years. It's incorrect that it takes millions of years for something to fossilize. Fossils can form in a much shorter amount of time.
In particular, it is the Uwa tribe of the Amazon rainforest who believe oil is the blood of Mother Earth, or the blood of the earth itself, who is spewed as a living entity. They believe that taking oil from the ground will disrupt the balance of the universe and nature in harmful ways, and also hurt life. Therefore, they are opposed to companies taking oil from their land.
Devil's Tower is a natural formation around the size of a mountain that modern science says was formed by lava cooling down millions of years ago. But there's no evidence of anything volcanic around the area. If you look at this, you just see a rock. But look closely and it looks like a giant tree stump, and many people believe it is the remains of a tree that was cut down by huge beings a long time ago. But if this is true, how come it feels like rock? Well, larger trees feel tougher than smaller ones and are harder and heavier. And you can research petrified wood and find out that wood can turn into stone. And there are many different legends of how this rock formation was made. And some Native Americans believed it was a tree that was knocked down by a giant bear, and when the tree fell, it created the black hills around the area. And they believe that this is its tree stump. Mesas, buttes, and tepuis are rock formations with flat surfaces on the top of them. Mounsai says these are formed by erosion and lava and stuff like that, but they look like giant tree stumps. They're all over the world, and now I'm going to show you some of them. And you can find these formations all over the world. They look like tree stumps. And here, this one's named Jagorta, and you can even see lines on it, just like wood has. Because it is. And in the country of Venezuela, there are many of these mesas, these rock formations, that are giant tree stumps. They're all over the country. You know, some of them. And they literally reach to the clouds because they're so high that the clouds reach the tops of them. And many legends speak of trees reaching up to the sky. The belief that these mesas are giant tree stumps goes back thousands of years ago. Soro Artana is the name of one of these formations, and according to the mythology of the Piorans, which are the first people to live in the country of Venezuela, it was once a giant tree whose fruit used to fall to the jungle and give life to the creatures there. And one day, two gods came down to the earth and wanted to get all its fruit down at once. So one of the gods shape-shifted into a giant rodent and gnawed on its base until it fell. And when it fell, its branches created the forests of the Cuello River and the mountains of Sipapo. And when it fell, it also changed the course of the water and created Lake Leopoldo. It's interesting that different cultures from around the world believe that these rock formations are giant tree stumps, entirely different cultures. And there are many legends of giant trees touching the sky throughout the world. And the Bible also mentions two trees in the Garden of Eden. There's the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life. And the tree of life is also mentioned in many mythologies outside of the Bible. The tree of life in mythology is always depicted as being huge and touching the sky in mythology. Like in Norse mythology, the tree of life is called Yggdrasil, and is believed to be in the middle of the earth, and it touches heaven, it's said to. And it's huge, and they also called it the tree of life. And in Tengri traditions, it's also mentioned. And in Hungarian mythology, it's called the sky tree. And there's the world tree of Mesoamerican mythology. And in shaman belief, there's also a giant tree called the tree of life, and it's believed to have the gate to another world in it. But what happened to the remains of these trees? Well, supernatural beings did some stuff to their remains, and some perhaps are at the bottom of the ocean, because there are places beneath the ocean that people still haven't explored. And what if deserts were formed by giant trees falling and destroying all the life around them and creating the desert. Because many of these formations are found in the desert. And many rocks we find might actually be the remains of giant trees that fell down and shattered into many pieces. The Book of Enoch also says lofty trees, which means tall trees, will fall off their trunks. The Book of Enoch is an apocryphal biblical book. Giant's Causeway is a rock formation in Ireland. According to modern science, it was formed millions of years ago by lava turning into rock. But in mythology, it was built by a giant, because in mythology, an Irish giant wanted to get in a fight with a Scottish giant, so he built a stepping stone bridge all the way from Ireland to Scotland. But one of the giants destroyed most of the bridge, and Giant's Causeway is what remains of it. And there's a similar formation found in Scotland, making me think that this is the other end of the stepping stone bridge. And there's a rock formation in Iceland called the Dwarf Cliffs, or also known as the Dwarf Rocks. And it's said to be built by supernatural humanoid creatures called Hodel folk. Modern science says it was formed in the Ice Age. It's interesting that this has hexagonal-shaped rocks. How could two different countries say the same thing? How come two different countries believe that these hexagonal rocks were built by supernatural beings? Perhaps these beings built them with some kind of tool or ancient technology. And fairy chimneys are rock formations in Turkey. The modern science says they are formed by lava, though they're like houses, they have holes in them, making me think that these were houses for some kind of supernatural entities or beings. And this rock looks like a mushroom, and there are many rocks all over the world called mushroom rocks. According to many mud fossil believers, they are mushrooms that got turned into stone, because they look very similar. You can find them all over the world.